Hi, I'm Megan Dahl, and I'm going to talk about what I've learned. I want to talk about spirituality, but more about finding an identity and what I've learned about finding an identity. This isn't something I talk about very often, but I'm learning to voice this part of myself and to accept it and embrace it. I grew up Mormon, and I am 5 generations of Mormon. My great-great-grandparents came across by covered wagon from Denmark. They sold everything they had, and they came to the United States because they believed in a religion, and they sacrificed everything they had. They traveled in snowstorms, and some relatives died, and they settled a small town in Idaho. And the elementary school there is actually named after my great-grandfather, and my family is still very, very much active Mormon, and I grew up in that culture from birth. I was raised to be a very good Mormon girl and to follow the teachings of the gospel and to have a life centered on a specific path. And this was the path you go, and this is what you do, and there is no deviation. Rules, a belief system. The outside world was foreign and was evil. So I wouldn't even be able to really talk to any of you. I wouldn't be able to relate to you because you weren't of my faith and you didn't understand my religion, and therefore you didn't understand me. And my job was to be able to convert every single one of you to that belief system because everyone was going to be Mormon. And my job was also to be the most perfect Mormon possible. So everything from never drinking coffee to not having 2 earrings pierced in my ear to marrying the right person at the right time in the right place. Those were things that I had to do. And if I did those things correctly, then I would attain eternal life and salvation, and everything would be wonderful and perfect forever. So I did all of that. I was perfect. I got perfect grades. I married the perfect person at 19 years old. And I was on that path. And I believed that that was my calling. I believed that's who I was. My identity was to be that person. But when I was 24 years old and 5 years married, I had a crisis of faith. I had a crisis of identity. And it shook everything that I was and everything that I thought I would be, and I have Oprah to blame for it.
I knew you were going there when you started this.
Exactly. I saw this coming.
It's always Oprah. She had, at the time, I was watching Oprah and trying to sort of be my best self, and she had be your best life, or live your best life, as sort of her marketing branding thing of this specific year. And I started thinking, well, how can I be my best self? And I started really sort of taking care of myself. I started exercising a lot. I started meditation and yoga. I started taking classes that I really loved in school, art, creative writing. I really got into creative writing and decided that that would be one of my majors. Philosophy, which was dangerous, and Eastern religion, and all of these classes that expanded my mind and expanded my worldview, but shrunk my religious philosophy. And I had a very difficult time going through cognitive dissonance, trying to put all of this belief that I had into a box and make it fit in this bigger, more expansive belief system that I was gaining, this world belief and world connection. And it got harder and harder. And I remember it was Thanksgiving weekend, and my husband and I went on a road trip, and I looked at him, and I had been having this outpouring of, I need to tell him I was losing my faith, that I didn't believe in this religion that was my foundation, that was connected to my great-great-grandparents, that were connected to my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, my future children that didn't even exist. And I spoke the words, and they were real, and I knew they were real, and I knew that I could never go back. I could never say that I believed in that religion and that faith again. And he was very supportive at first, and I then made the transition from believing into non-belief, and that was the most difficult time of my life. I spent about 3 weeks in the fetal position in my bedroom, and I remember telling my mother that I did not believe in this religious construct, and my parents decided to disown me. They felt that if I was going to leave their religion and their life and the dreams that they had for me, then that I could no longer be their child. So, and my husband actually turned away as well because he couldn't understand my experience. And so I was left alone, and completely isolated. I lost my friends and my family, my culture, my religion, everything that I knew. But I couldn't pretend to be something I wasn't. And so I got back to Oprah. and I started Googling her website. This is so ridiculous, but I Googled her website, and I was trying to search for an answer, a way to explain what I was going through, and one of the message boards that she writes on, she's like, try to find a community that relates to you. And so I went to the Google again, and I was like, are there other ex-Mormons out there? And I found people with the same experience that I did, and I found a community online, and I posted feverishly to message boards. I wrote a blog. I exhaled all of my feelings and all of my fears and all of my pain, and I was able to communicate with others who had a similar story. And that's when I realized that storytelling was really necessary for me to live, and necessary for me to breathe, and necessary for me to connect with other people.